So you're looking to maybe start developing games with Maplestory Worlds, and you might be looking for some advice on where to begin. Well, allow me to be your guide on this adventure. I've been working with this platform for a good chunk of time now, and I am confident that I can give you the information that you need to get started. Small disclaimer, I am just one guy. I am still on my own learning adventure, and I'm by no means trying to make the claim that the way I do anything is the 100% end-all be-all right way of doing it. I guarantee there are millions of people out there who are much smarter than me, who probably have much better ways of doing things. This is just stuff that I've found useful to me, and if somebody else can get some use out of it, then that's awesome. So for now, we're just going to assume that you're starting from square one, and we're just going to go to the website. Once you get here, you're going to want to make your account, go ahead and log in, and you might not be aware, but there is a standalone app. You have access to pretty much everything here on the website that you do on the app, but if you're going to be working consistently in this program, I would recommend that you just go ahead and download the app. Once you have that downloaded and installed, then you will be able to access this, which is the standalone app. Like I said previously, you can access a lot of the same features. You can launch your games, edit your avatar, and do all that from here as well. Since for the purpose of this video, we're going to focus on creating a new world, you're going to go to this Create tab. From here, as you can see on the top, we have access to editing avatar items as well as editing worlds. Avatar items are probably going to be for another video, so let's focus on world for now and click this Create New button. Again, here at the top, you'll see two different tabs. This Basic tab gives you access to these Pro Mode templates, and then you have the Design tab. Design mode gives you access to their code-free editor. If you want to know more about it, they already have a playlist created. I'll try and link to it if I remember, but there's a lot of useful information there if you want maybe a more simplified experience starting out. So design mode is probably not going to be something that I ever go into just because I've never used it. The only experience I have using Maplestory Worlds is in Pro mode, and they've already done a great job explaining things. But if this piques your interest, go give them a watch. But moving on back to the Basics tab, you will see a number of different templates that are currently available. These are great if maybe you don't want to start from scratch or you want to see how they implemented certain features. They're useful for learning exercises, but for our purposes, we're going to start from a completely blank project. So go ahead and click Create New and the button here at the bottom, and we will let this load. Now when you first open the project, it's going to look something like this. From here, there's really a lot that I could cover, but I'd really like these videos to be a little shorter as more bite-sized chunks. So I'm going to skip over a lot of things this first time around. I'm going to keep this video more so like a basic overview. I think a lot of these topics deserve their own focus, and I will circle back around in other videos to cover each topic individually. So to begin with, let's just introduce the tabs as they are. Front and center, you have your Scene tab. Your Scene tab is like your main view into the world. It's where you can edit your maps, you can edit your UI. It's where you visualize all the gameplay. It's your pretty obvious main anchor while making the world. Over to the left, we have our preset list. These are pre-existing models provided by Maplestory Worlds. If you're familiar with the term prefabs, they're kind of like that, just things you can drag and drop into the world that kind of work out the gate. Things like NPCs, monsters, characters, backgrounds, UI elements, etc., etc. They're, of course, by no means set in stone, so they could be really useful starting points, and you can expand upon them from there to suit whatever your purpose is. Now, once you have something in your world and you have it selected, on the right, you can see that the Property tab gets filled up with a lot of information. All this information are things like the components associated with that model and the different properties within. This makes it really easy to manipulate these values without having to dive deeper into the scripts and whatnot. You can add and remove components as needed. Yeah. To the right of our Property tab, we have our Hierarchy tab. This tab is really useful for viewing all of the entities associated with the map that you're currently in, as well as viewing their parent-child structure. As you can see, there is a different hierarchy for all of the entities within the map itself, as well as all the UI elements. Beneath that, you have your workspace. The workspace is useful for viewing all of the assets associated with your current project in like a folder type structure. At the top, you have access to your default player settings, which every player will inherit as they join your world. Also, at a glance, you have access to the world config file, which manipulates the configuration for your world, the native scripts, which you cannot edit or delete by default, and then My Desk, which is where you will save all the assets that you create, specifically pertaining to your project. To the left, you have access to your map layers, which is one way to control the depth of sprites and the order in which they appear in front of each other. You also have access to your UI groups, which is a way of organizing the different UI elements and how they appear on the screen at any given time. Another important tab is the resource storage, which, as you can see, I have a bunch of assets in for my other projects, but for you, when you're first starting out, this will be empty. This is where you can import and save all of the custom assets that you need for your project, things like sprites, animations, audio, all that stuff. One quick point, though, is that this is only one way to do this. There's actually other ways of importing assets into your project without storing them in the resource storage. Now, right next to the My Resources tab, there's the Maplestory World Resources tab. For you, this will be populated. These are all the sprites, audio, and animations and whatnot provided by Maplestory Worlds. You can search through it and find pre-existing assets that you are free to use within your project. Another thing to take note of is this top bar. It has a lot of settings that are pretty standard and you'll already be familiar with. A lot of the things that are in it are also accessible elsewhere within the editor. I'm probably not going to get too much into it, but for now just be aware that it's there and you can access a lot of things from it as well. There's a couple more important buttons up here to pay attention to, like for example this tile editor button, which once you click it you'll enter into tile editing mode, which allows you to literally paint and draw and to manipulate the tile data pertaining to your map. Next to that is the UI button, which once you push that, you'll enter into UI editor mode, which as the name suggests, allows you to manipulate and edit the UI visuals. Another thing to take note of is probably this bottom console here. This is where all your logs and your prints will show up, as well as any warnings or errors. Next to that is your build console, which when you have that selected will display any potential errors that have been picked up by the engine pertaining to the specific scripts that you're working on. Next to that is the references tab, which when you right click something and select to show its references, this is where it will display those. Probably the last important thing we should cover is if you actually want to play your world, you need to push this play button here at the top. Once you click that, the first time it's going to ask you to name your world. I'm just going to name mine like MSW tutorials to start. After it loads, it'll allow you to see what your game looks like in its current state. And there I go. Oh no, I'm dying because there's no ground there to catch me. Let's just go ahead and fix that real quick so we don't just fall to our death every time. There, that's much better. So I think for now I'm gonna leave it there. I know I skipped a lot, maybe kind of glanced over a lot of things that I probably should dive into, but I really want to give everything the attention that it deserves in its own video. So yeah, so keep an eye out for those. If you found this useful, awesome. And until next time, take it easy.